Hello, everyone. Welcome to Marylhurst University's School of Business webinar, Innovators of the Future. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm the admissions counselor for the School of Business, Michaela Hansen, and with me today we have Ann Rubelid, the director of the School of Business. We welcome any questions that you have, and we will address them at the end, so feel free to type them in and send them our way as soon as they come to mind, but we will answer them at the end of the presentation. So Ann, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Michaela. My name is Ann Rubelid. I'm the director of the School of Business here at Marylhurst, and I've been here in a full-time capacity since August of 2017, so 7 or 8 months. But prior to that, I was an adjunct faculty member here in organizational behavior and market research, and I had been doing that for about 4 years. When I was an adjunct, I also had a full-time job supporting small and large nonprofit organizations in the areas of marketing, change management, project management, and system development and implementation. So when I got here, I was so happy to join the faculty and the students in really building a business school that could create innovators and the workforce of the future. When we talk about innovation, I'd like to ask you to consider ways and opportunities that you have to innovate. Innovation can happen on a small scale or a large scale. You can innovate at home. You can innovate in your professional life. And the great thing about innovation is it's not a role or a position that somebody might have, but rather it's a way of life and a mindset. So if you can understand and practice having the mindset of an innovator, then you can be an innovator. And the great thing about doing that is that once you get going, you know, the possibilities are endless. So hopefully today you'll get a couple of tips and tricks and ideas about what innovation is, at least what we perceive it to be, and how you might be able to apply some of these things in your life, professionally and personally. First of all, innovators are naturally curious, and they're focused on goals first and tactics second. So what I mean by that, the automobile was invented not by people who were looking at how to make faster horses, but by people who were looking to solve a problem of transportation. That's why focusing on goals rather than tactics is a good idea. Focusing on the tactics is going to be focusing on basically building a faster horse. And so as we're innovating, we're looking at what the problem is that we're trying to solve. And the problem that we're trying to solve, a really crisp and clear understanding of that will drive creative solutions and innovations when we're looking at those goals. Seth Godin is somebody who, if you guys want to write, if you don't know who Seth is, he's got a blog every day. He posts a very short blog, and he's somebody who I would consider a real innovative person in the field of business. So I recommend you write his name down and potentially check him out, maybe sign up for his blog. One of the things that he said once that I found really interesting was about sliced bread, right? So we think about sliced bread as greatest thing since sliced pizza, great story of innovation. Well, what he says is that for the first few years, the idea of sliced bread was a complete flop. Nobody wanted it, nobody knew about it, nobody knew it was available, because the focus was less on the value, the commercial value that would provide to the customer, and more on the patent, the factory, the process, the mechanics of how a bread might get sliced. And so it's really around the technical side of the idea rather than the value. And so it didn't necessarily we didn't talk about it in a way that would solve the problem that people were having. So nowadays, it doesn't matter how good the idea or the product is, it's really the most widely spread ideas that win. It's the ideas that gain that traction and that are really focused on what it is that we're trying to solve and for whom. Innovation is about having and spreading ideas, and it's about knowing who or what you're innovating for, and then creating something that is very, very much focused on and tailored for solving that goal or that problem. to be commercially successful, innovators need to innovate in service to a strategy or a goal. It's not about creating something new or looking at something different for the sake of it being different. It's about how it better solves a problem, a goal, how it gets us closer to a strategy. So if you're taking this back this afternoon, you're going back into the office and you want to practice innovation, rather than looking at the task at hand that you're doing, take a step or two back and try to figure out what the reason or the purpose is behind that task. And that's the first step of innovation. It'll really help you see if what you're doing is right in line. Yep, I should be doing it. Or, gosh, no, I think if I really focus on the goal, I might be able to get us there closer or faster. You need to know what your goal is, what you're trying to do, before you know if you did it. So again, do you know what your goals are? Do you know what you're trying to accomplish? And if you don't, then that's a really, really good place to start.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Anne. And I love the example of sliced bread. That's a good example that Seth brings up. And when looking at the business industry, we often hear a lot about innovation. It's become sort of one of the buzzwords. And as organizations look to find employees who bring fresh ideas and perspectives to already existing business models, I think that really touches on your idea of innovation being a mindset more than a specific job. But one of your colleagues, Adam Nathan, he's the founder of the Bartlett system. He came to campus recently and shared some of his ideas, and he has a really fascinating perspective and definition of innovators and who those are. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. Adam is definitely a co-conspirator here and a friend of the business school. When he talked about the most valuable skills for the future workplace, he really talked about 3 different categories of people, and he was talking about these categories in a very conceptual way. So all people and all roles that are roles of the future fall into one of 3 categories. One is the artist, the second is the technologist, and the third is the entrepreneur. So the artist is, and before I go on, it's at the intersection of these 3 ideas is where that innovation happens. So an artist is a visionary, a person who sees a blank page and can see the possibility in that blank page. They're able to create something out of nothing, to see that art through. And an artist can be a technology code writer. They can be a communicator. They can be a leader, but they're really thinking about what that possibility is. The technologist is the person who has the skills and know-how to bring that vision to life. So an artist may have a really great idea for a new app or technology innovation, or maybe it's not a technology, you know, in the sense of a computer, but it's more in a physical sense, and that the technologist is somebody who can see and understand that vision that the artist has and understand what the mechanical pieces are that bring that vision to life. The entrepreneur, added to the artist and a technologist, is the person who can understand who this thing might be for. So what's the value proposition of the creation? Who's it for? And very importantly, how do we communicate that value to either a market or whoever that person for whom the value is being created needs to hear it. And this can be within a broader marketplace of customers, but you can apply this framework really within an organization, outside of an organization, hey, maybe even within your own family, if you have enough people. So looking at Marylhurst's values and capabilities through this framework, we are really uniquely positioned and positioning ourselves to consider our resources here. We have educators in business, the arts and sciences and communication and liberal studies and the tools of analysis, how all of this resources that we have at our university can align to offer something truly unique, to offer this opportunity to create this intersection. And I see this merging of business and the liberal arts sides of the university, acting deliberately to create relevant and industry-connected education for people who need the knowledge, skills, and language to innovate and to do things in a new and better way. Through developing the skills and the professional networks and the abilities of the artist, the technologist, and the entrepreneur.
Great. And Adam, in his presentation here on campus, he had included some projections from McKinsey Global Institute, which is a research organization, about where the economy is projected to go. And one of them that I found most intriguing was that by the year 2030, which sounds, you know, light years away, but really is only 12 years away, it's coming up soon, we'll see about 400 million jobs automated on a global scale. And so if we were to see that kind of shift in our economy, how do you think as a society we would fit innovation into that economy?
Yeah, that's a great question, Michaela. You know, when I think about 2030, I think about that's about the year when my own daughter is going to be leaving high school, and so she will hopefully be entering college. If that college may look really different, or entering the workforce, or both. And what's that going to look like for her? The disturbing thing about this trend, I think, for educators and people in higher education is that the world is moving so fast that any one tactical skill acquired at the beginning of a program like an MBA or an undergraduate program, undergraduate degree, these skills risk being obsolete by the time the program is over. And it really doesn't matter what that skill is or what program we are talking about. Every higher education institution is going to be facing this same problem. For that reason, the way that we are approaching solving this problem is to create graduates who are prepared to apply frameworks to build solutions regardless of what tactical problem they're facing. So in facing increasing automation in a changing world, building these skills is the only way that individuals like my daughter, maybe some of us as well, can prepare ourselves, and also the only way that a university like Marylhurst is really focused on student success can effectively prepare students. I believe that the purpose of a business education is to enable students to elevate the impact of their ideas and to bring these ideas smartly forth to their audience, whether that audience is a market of potential customers, an employer, or anyone else that these ideas could be impacting. The ideation itself, the ability to see the possibility on the blank page, can be nurtured in the liberal arts focus and the humanities sides of the university's portfolio. When I started at Marylhurst 4 years ago as an adjunct, I saw these creative ideas bursting out of our MBA students. I've heard stories since I got here and have been working full-time of students who met in the MBA program, and maybe one of them was really focused on technology and the other one had this great idea that came together and built businesses as business partners together as they combine these skills. And this is part of what makes Marylhurst special and unique. We have always attracted entrepreneurs and other unique business students who are ready to make a difference in their world through all sorts of different types of innovation. And for this reason, when we combine our students' affinity with the skills they learn here, our graduates are uniquely prepared to solve the problems of the future, regardless of what those problems might be.
Excellent. And yeah, I think as a university, we are kind of entrusted with the task of preparing students for the economy that they will be walking into. And as you said, we at Marylhurst focus really heavily on student outcomes, and our student success is really the most important thing. So with that being said, in terms of innovation, and I know you've touched on this a little bit, but how will we prepare students to become the innovators so that they'll be successful in this economy that we're projected to have?
Yeah, well, that is a good question. So I really believe that a business education offers students the breadth and the ability to set and achieve a strategic vision. Business frameworks are agnostic of the problems or the goals that they're helping their masters achieve, but those who have learned them should also have critical thinking skills and the ability to apply to strategic decision-making frameworks, the ability to then execute on those frameworks to achieve goals better and faster than their competitors. These critical thinking skills are integrated and interwoven into the undergraduate and the MBA degree in the School of Business. Some as a function of the business curriculum, but very much as a function of our being connected with those liberal arts, with the focus on the arts and humanities that some of our colleagues come in with. So that ability to think critically, to look at a problem from lots of different frameworks, not just one, and to apply and understand all of the different life experiences that our classmates and our instructors bring into problems are all really helping to prepare our students to be innovative problem solvers. You know, something else I can add here is that we have a core group of full-time faculty here at Marylhurst who focus on helping students achieve the really hard skills that they need in the MBA, like statistics and finance and accounting. But we also rely on a very deep bench of adjunct faculty who are working in the fields that they're teaching in. So you get both the network ability as well as the connection to people who are as in nature of their full-time jobs being keeping their skills relevant. And speaking as one of those adjunct faculty members who would work, and I had my own market research company, and I worked in these big organizations. And then a couple times a year, I would come and I would teach a class or two at Marylhurst, and I would help the students understand what was going on that day, that hour in my company. With a focus there on that critical thinking and problem solving, and therefore on knowledge and values that drive change in societies and in businesses, we can scale our business frameworks to provide this problem solving ability. No matter what the problem is, we can apply it to the business of running a for-profit company, a nonprofit company. The ability to envision, measure, and achieve goals is important regardless of where we're innovating, as well as the interplay among strategy, human and group behavior, execution, and analytical frameworks are critical elements of a really solid business education. And the difference between a business framework and a specific business goal should be in that differentiating value proposition and the application of those frameworks to achieve a defined intellectual purpose or goal.
Excellent. And I think it's great that we have that structure in place. It's one of my favorite things to talk to prospective students about as they're, exploring their options with MBA programs. And I think it's interesting because we consistently draw a population of students who, as you mentioned, are passionate about making changes in their industry or in an environment that they care about, and they want to bring better business practices and innovation to whatever it is that they are already doing. It's great to talk to students as they're coming into the program because I hear a lot about their current backgrounds and what they want to be doing. And even our spring cohort that will be starting here in a couple of weeks, we have a diversity of backgrounds. We have some engineers, we have geologists and artists. So, all of these people are coming together into this MBA program. And I think the diversity of our population also speaks to, the structure that we have in place and how that appeals to the population that we educate. So as you mentioned, you are an adjunct professor here. And one of the things that, as I talk to these students coming in, I'm always very interested in what their classroom discussions will be like because there are so many perspectives. And so I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of insight, because you've spent time in the classrooms, about what classroom experiences are like for students and kind of discussions that come through.
Yeah, one of the things that really caused me to take a leap from where I was into higher education was the students. that there is such a diversity of backgrounds in Marylhurst students that it's really amazing what these conversations are. When I was going through my MBA program, I went to a more traditional program up at the University of Washington, and the background of this, you know, we had great conversations, but a lot of the students in that program were and came from backgrounds a lot like mine, and that being in a classroom at Marylhurst where that is so not the case, where there are so many different backgrounds sitting in the same classroom talking about the same topics, really provides a rich and deep experience to that classroom education. So, you know, one class I had, the most recent before I made the switch to come full-time, I had in the same class sitting next to each other talking about negotiation and organizational change management, where I had a VP of HR for a big corporation here in Portland. I had a guy who manufactured tibias, the part of your leg, the lower part of your leg, who wanted to create better systems for cleaning machines. I had an entrepreneur who had been a stay-at-home parent and was re-entering the workforce, building a business to sell rare, hard-to-find used cars. And I had a Nike product manager who wanted to open a doggy daycare outside of corporate headquarters because she saw this problem with her peers there at Nike that she wanted to solve. And that's just a small example of what happens in the classroom. You can imagine that a conversation about negotiation or you know, Cotter's theory of change would be informed by some of these people. And my job as a faculty member was really just to introduce the frameworks and guide that discussion so that people could build that network and build on those discussions. And I taught both on ground and online, and the online experience can also be really rich. With that same discussion, that same connection, we found ways to really help people connect with one another in the online cohorts as well. You know, one thing that I've noticed about the Marylhurst students is that they come to us, they're natural leaders, they're natural innovators. They don't always think of themselves that way or know they are, but part of what an MBA does is it helps people to really elevate the impact of their ideas and understand that their ideas have value and how to make those valuable ideas known in the market where they need them to be known. So, you know, and these people continue connections after they graduate as alumni. Just last week, I was talking with a group of alumni at a wine event here on campus where they got together to talk about a volunteer project that they wanted to do with the School of Business together as sort of getting back after they had been graduated for a couple of years. So we have a proposal put together, and they're going to come back and help us out. So it's really, really cool to meet and understand and get a chance to learn from all of these students and alumni. As in my position, I'm very honored to have that opportunity.
Wonderful, thank you. That's also great to hear about alumni being involved and coming back. So I do want to make sure we have a little bit of time for questions that people might have. And one quick thing, just kind of a housekeeping item for those on the webinar who are interested in the MBA program here at Marylhurst. Our fall applications are already flying in, so I did want to mention, if you're considering starting, submit your application as soon as possible so we can get going, get you admitted, and work through that process. I'm happy to set up an appointment and answer any questions that you might have about the program, and I'll include my contact information in the webinar when we send it out at the end. So please feel free to reach out with any questions that you might have, but we will open it up for questions from the audience for a few minutes. And let's see. It looks like one of the first questions that we got was what the deadline was for our fall application, and that will be September 7th. And then, good question. Also, another question that we just received is what GMAT score is required. We actually do not require the GMAT as part of our application process. We do review applications holistically, and so we look at students' statement of intent, their recommendations their undergraduate academics and also, our conversations with students to see if it is a good fit. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, well, this will conclude our webinar on Innovators of the Future. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.